You ever walk into a room and feel like the walls are watching you? Not judging, not haunted, just remembering? That's how it felt every time I stepped into my father's house. Technically mine, ever since he passed, but I never changed how I referred to it. It was his house, his dream, his quiet monument in a world too loud to listen. Red brick, black shutters. The oak tree we planted when I was 10 still stood like a soldier out front. Everything in that place had a story. Every squeaky floorboard, every dent in the banister, even the coffee stain on the kitchen counter that never quite scrubbed out, thanks to a very excited football Sunday. It wasn't just a house. It was us. So naturally, my wife wanted to sell it. I just think we need to move on, she said one morning, stirring her almond milk into the coffee like it had personally offended her. It's too much house. Too much baggage. I remember blinking at her, like I'd just been asked to euthanize my dog because he sheds too much baggage. I repeated, already knowing the tone I used would be deemed aggressive in the post-conversation debrief. That baggage raised me, paid for your nursing school, put a roof over our heads for 5 years when we were broke. She looked away and said nothing. That silence? It echoed louder than the HVAC in January. It wasn't the first time she brought it up. The let's sell and start fresh routine had become as familiar as the smell of the garage after I cut the grass. But that morning, she pressed harder. It's not yours, Mark. It's not really, she added. It's a symbol. Of him. Of everything you can't let go of. That him, she couldn't even say, my father, built the home with his bare hands and mortgage payments that took decades to swallow. And now she wanted to flip it like a dusty yard sale table? I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just looked at her, long and hard, and said, we'll talk about it. And I meant that. Not in the dismissive husband kind of way, but because I really did need to think. Not about the house, but about her. Because something had been off. The forced smiles. The sudden trips to her sister's house that came with 0 photos. The way she angled her phone away from me, even though I knew her passcode like I knew my own heartbeat. You ever see someone and feel like they're trying to disappear right in front of you? That was her lately. But me? I played it cool. After all, if I was going to lose the house, I wasn't about to lose my mind with it. Now, I'm not a suspicious man. But I'm also not stupid. When a woman changes her perfume after 10 years of marriage and starts wearing it to run errands, you don't need Sherlock Holmes. You just need a working nose and a decent sense of pattern recognition. But still, I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was stress. Maybe she was restless. Maybe she was having a midlife crisis with better fashion sense. I wasn't going to snoop or go full PI mode. That's not who I am. If she had something to say, she'd say it, right? Wrong. That weekend, she brought it up again. The house. We could put it on the market next month and be in a condo by fall, she said, with the enthusiasm of someone pitching timeshares in a bad suit. It's too much space for us. She didn't mean us, by the way. She meant her. I could see it now, neutral walls, a downtown apartment with clean lines, and open concept living in a rooftop yoga class she'd never attend. A life where she didn't have to walk past my father's photo every morning, still framed on the hallway wall like a silent witness. You really want out of here that bad? I asked. I just want a fresh start. She said it like it was noble. Like uprooting everything we built together was the only reasonable next chapter. Like we were starring in some indie film about starting over, except only one of us got a script. Still, I nodded. Okay. I told her. Let's look at our options. And she lit up. Not because she was happy I was finally agreeing, but because she thought she'd won. You can always tell when someone confuses manipulation with progress. I wasn't hurt. Not yet. Just detached. Like I was watching our marriage from the outside, rooting for the guy I used to be before she started pulling away like I was furniture on moving day. But here's the thing. I didn't tell her I'd already called a realtor. Not our realtor. Her name never made it onto the paperwork. Because something told me I'd need to play this game to the last piece. And man, did I not they say the truth always comes out in the end. But sometimes, it slips out the side door when nobody's looking. It was a Thursday afternoon, regular enough. I came home early because the guy fixing the garage door called and said he was running ahead of schedule. I pulled into the driveway, nice and quiet, like a man who still believed his biggest problem was a squeaky hinge. The house was silent, but not empty. I heard her voice before I even closed the door. Low, muffled, talking fast. So naturally, I assumed it was a work call until I heard the laugh. You know the one. That special occasion laugh. The one she used to use with me when I still mattered. I followed the sound like a moth to a very ugly flame. She was in the dining room, phone pressed to her cheek, glass of wine already half gone, even though it was barely 2 p.m. And her voice? Sweet as poison. No, he's coming around. I think he's finally ready to let it go. Yeah, the house. He doesn't say it, but I can tell. He's tired. She paused a sip. We just need to keep playing it cool, babe. Once it's sold, I'll handle the rest. Trust me. He's not the type to fight over furniture. That was it. That last word. Furniture. She downgraded our life to the equivalent of a Craigslist listing. The house my father built, the one we hosted Thanksgiving dinners in, raised our dog in, argued in, laughed in, all of it was just background to her next scene. And babe? Well, he clearly wasn't me. I didn't barge in. I didn't make a sound. I backed up like I'd just opened the wrong door at a dinner party, the one that leads to the truth. Walked straight back out the front door, quiet as I came in. The garage guy called again 5 minutes later. I told him to hold off a week, maybe longer. That night, she asked how my day went. I said, uneventful. Smiled. Kissed her cheek. Told her we should schedule a meeting with the realtor soon. She beamed like a woman who just hit the jackpot on a rigged machine. I beamed right back. Because at that point, the game was on. So now I knew. Knew that my wife, the woman who once cried in my arms when we couldn't afford a new dishwasher, was now co-conspiring with some babe on how to peel me off my father's floorboards like old wallpaper. That wasn't betrayal. That was an exit strategy. But here's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't punch you in the gut. Not at first. It pats you on the back, pours you a drink, and waits for you to take a sip before sliding the knife in. But she didn't know that I knew. And that made her dangerous. But me? Lethal. The next morning, I poured her coffee like always. Just a splash of cream, 2 sugars. I even threw in a smile. We should probably call that realtor, I said casually. She blinked mid-sip. Really? Yeah, I said, leaning against the counter. You're right. It's time to start fresh. She smiled. Not the kind of smile you give your husband, though. No, that was the grin of a woman already spending furniture money with another man. I'd already reached out to a realtor. My own guy. Quiet. Discreet. Knew how to file paperwork in a way that kept my wife's name conveniently in the waiting room. We listed the house privately, under a shell LLC I'd set up 2 years earlier for some land I never bought. Told her the market was better that way, fewer looky-loose, more serious buyers. She nodded along like she understood real estate. She didn't. She just liked the idea of me doing the legwork while she schemed behind her lover's headboard. I even let her show the house. That was the best part. She'd walk strangers through my father's house, waving her hand at the crown molding like she picked it out, telling them this room gets great morning light, while standing on the hardwood he installed on his knees. I stayed quiet, played the patient husband, smiled when she smiled, nodded like I cared when she said, we'll need to be out in 60 days. Meanwhile, behind the curtain, I was turning off the lights. I started moving things out in pieces, not furniture. No. History. My dad's fishing rods. The framed scorecard from his first hole-in-one. A photo of him holding me the day we finished the treehouse. She didn't notice. Of course she didn't. She was too busy texting someone named Eric. I know this because her phone vibrated while she was in the shower. The name lit up right there on the screen. Eric. No last name. Just Eric. I didn't read the message. Didn't need to. That name had already been whispered over wine in my dining room. While she hummed in the bathroom, I stood in the kitchen, flipping my keys in my palm and thinking, you should have taken this to your grave, lady. But now you get to watch me bury it. By the 3rd week, we had a buyer. Or at least she thought we did. I told her a young couple from out of state had offered asking price cash. She lit up like a Christmas tree and immediately started browsing townhouses on her iPad, legs tucked beneath her on the couch like this was some cozy rom-com where she gets the fresh start and the handsome new boyfriend. She kept showing me listings with clean finishes and modern touches, completely unaware that I'd already signed the final papers. To my mother. Yep. Turns out, when you own the house outright and keep the title in your name alone, selling it to your own mother is legal and absolutely delightful. She had no desire to move in, of course, but she loved the idea of owning her late husband's house again. Said it was poetic. You sure about this, Mark? She asked, pen in hand. Absolutely, I said. And if she ever sets foot in it again, call the cops. The best part? The deal closed in silence. No sold sign on the lawn. No celebration dinner. Just a quiet wire transfer to an account she didn't know existed, and a deed filed at the county office like any other boring Thursday. I waited until Friday. She came home all smiles, 2 iced coffees in hand. One for her, one for her husband. Sweet of her. I found a condo, she said. Eric knows a guy who does closings cheap. Isn't that great? I took a long sip of coffee. Let it sit on my tongue. You might want to talk to Eric about finding somewhere else, I said. She blinked. What? The house is sold, I said. Closed this week. Her jaw hung open, latte untouched. What do you mean closed? To who? To someone who's not moving in, I said. But you are most definitely moving out. She stared at me, searching for the joke. You sold it without me, she finally choked. I nodded. You wanted a fresh start. Now you've got one. No baggage. No house. No husband. That night, she slept in the guest room. The next morning, she didn't speak. Just packed. And me? I walked through the house, empty of furniture but full of echoes. I poured a whiskey, sat on the back porch, and watched the sun set behind the oak tree. I'd made peace with losing her, but I never planned on losing the house. Now, I didn't lose either. She did. It's funny how quiet a house gets when it knows the pretending is over. The morning after she packed her bags, I found her sitting at the kitchen table like she was still entitled to it. She had this look, half defiance, half disbelief. Like maybe I was going to walk in, say just kidding, and toss her keys back with a wink. Sorry, wrong movie. She glanced up at me. So that's it. You sold it to your mother. I shrugged. She made a great offer. You blindsided me, Mark. Now that made me laugh. Blindsided? From the woman who'd been holding pillow talk planning sessions about flipping my inheritance into a one-bedroom love nest with Eric the human snake? That was rich. Let's not pretend you didn't get the ball rolling, I said. I just played the final move. She had the nerve to look hurt. You'd think I was the one sneaking around behind her back. But that's the thing about people like her. They're never the villain in their version of the story. Just the misunderstood protagonist who had to follow their heart into someone else's bed. What do we do now? She asked finally. I sat across from her. Calm. Even. Like a man about to defuse a bomb he built himself. We split everything, I said. Down the middle. She blinked. Wait. You're not kicking me out with nothing, are you? Of course not, I said. I'm a lot of things, but I'm not a monster. I believe in fairness. Relief flickered across her face, just long enough for me to enjoy yanking the rug out from under it. I mean everything, I added. Down to the last damn spoon. Her smile twitched. What? We built a life together, right? I said. So we're going to break it apart together. Every last piece. And that's exactly what we did. I pulled out a notepad, wrote mine on one side and yours on the other. We took turns picking, like a draft. Only instead of athletes, it was lamps and dinnerware, and who got the Costco card with $7.83 still loaded on it. She tried to protest, said she didn't have time for this. I told her she'd already taken the time to betray me. She could afford a couple more hours to split the consequences. We were civil at first. She took the guest towels. I took the toolbox. She claimed the blender. I countered with the grill. It was like emotional Jenga. Every choice poked at the life we once had. Then it got petty. She tried to take the dining set. I said nope. You laughed with him in that chair. She snatched up the espresso machine. You never used this anyway. Yeah. Well, now I want to learn, I replied. By hour 2, the sarcasm was thick enough to butter toast with. I offered her the bath mat. She offered me the mail key, but not the mailbox. Somewhere between who got the last set of batteries and who kept the smart speaker, she stopped trying to win. She just wanted out. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I led her to the garage. You forgot something, I said. What? I pointed at the far wall, the shadow box with the 3 keys hanging inside. One was my dad's car key, from the old Chevy he drove until the day he died. One was to his fishing cabin. And the third? That was the key to this house. The real one. The one he gave me when he said, "Take care of her, son. She'll take care of you." I opened the frame, removed the 3rd key, and held it in my hand for a moment. Then I handed it to her. Her eyes widened. Seriously? Seriously, I said. It's yours. She looked at it, confused. Suspicious. Probably waiting for the punchline. Only catch, I added, is it doesn't open a single door anymore. Locks have been changed. But go ahead. Keep it. Souvenir. She held it for a beat, then dropped it on the floor like it burned. We were quiet again. Not the tense kind. The done kind. "So that's it?" she asked. "We're just over?" I looked around the garage. Tools I wouldn't lend her. Boxes I'd already packed. Shelves she never touched. "Yeah," I said. "We're over. The only thing we still share is the Wi-Fi, and I'm changing the password tomorrow." She nodded. No tears. Not anymore. Maybe she ran out. Maybe she didn't have any to begin with. "I'll be out by Monday," she said. I walked her to the door. Not out of politeness, just to make sure she left. Before she stepped outside, she turned to look at me one last time. "I never meant for it to happen like this," she said. I smiled. Neither did I. Then I shut the door. Behind her, and in front of the past, Monday came. She was gone. No goodbye. No handwritten note. No box of forgotten junk left on the porch. She didn't even take the souvenir key I gave her. Left it on the kitchen counter next to a ring of coffee it didn't deserve. And just like that, the chapter closed. Officially. But here's the thing about breakups. They don't really end with the moving truck. They end with the paperwork. The slow, bureaucratic crawl of who owes what, and who gets what, and who's hiding what. That's where I came alive. You see, I let her think the house was the win. That by selling it to my mother, I was just pulling the one rug out from under her high heels. But the house? That was the warm-up act. The real symphony? That came with the finances. She had no idea I'd been preparing for months. Long before I ever heard her whisper sweet nothings to a guy who wore boat shoes unironically. While she was busy deleting messages and clearing browser history, I was consolidating accounts, freezing shared cards, separating investments, and moving anything with my father's name on it far, far out of reach. Legally speaking, of course. When we finally met with our respective lawyers, she walked in like she still had cards to play. She wore her neutral face, that perfectly curated look of slight victimhood mixed with misplaced confidence. She sat down across the table, laid her hands in her lap, and gave a little sigh. As if the process of dismantling our life together was just an inconvenience between Pilates and a mimosa brunch. Her lawyer cleared his throat and opened with a gem. "My client is seeking an equitable distribution of marital assets, including all shared accounts, retirement funds, and, of course, the sale proceeds of the family home." I actually smiled. "I'm afraid that won't be necessary," I said, passing a folder across the table. "That home was purchased before the marriage. Inherited property. Legally protected. The sale was private and the funds are held in a trust not subject to division." The lawyer blinked. She blinked. The silence. "Worth every lawyer's fee combined." "And the accounts?" her guy asked. "Already split," I replied. "She's welcome to her half. It's sitting in the new account I opened under her name. Everything's documented." My lawyer nodded. "And as per the prenup, any assets resulting from infidelity are to be forfeited, as defined in Clause 6. He tapped the page. That part was beautiful. Because during our marriage, I'd paid off her student loans, put her name on a car she didn't even drive anymore, and, like the sentimental idiot I used to be, opened a joint account to renovate the dream kitchen she never cooked in. And the prenup? It had very clear rules. If one party is found to have committed adultery, my lawyer read, they forfeit all claims to jointly acquired discretionary assets. That includes vehicles, furnishings, and any funds contributed solely by the injured party. That was me, the injured party. Sounds noble, doesn't it? Her lawyer stammered something about context and emotional distance and intent, but we had the receipts. Phone records. Travel logs. A beautiful, time-stamped bouquet of text that started with "miss you already" and ended with, "when's he finally going to sell the house?" And then came the cherry on top. I reached into my bag and pulled out a manila envelope, the old-school kind, for dramatic effect. I slid it across the table. Her lawyer frowned. "What's this?" "Just something she might want to see," I said. She opened it. Photos. Screenshots. One in particular, her and Eric, parked in my driveway at 2:17 p.m., lips locked like teenagers, while I was at my father's gravesite that same afternoon. I'd put flowers down. She was putting lipstick on. I didn't say anything. She stared at it for a long time. Not crying. Not raging. Just frozen. Like she'd finally remembered what guilt felt like but forgot how to wear it. "I want to be reasonable," I said. "You can keep the car. I'll even keep your name on the insurance until you figure things out." My lawyer raised an eyebrow. I ignored him. "But the rest?" I continued. "The condo you were looking at? That'll be on you and Eric now." Her lawyer asked for a break. I said take all the time you need. She left the room without a word. No apology. No defense. Not even a glance back. Just silence. It was the last thing we had in common. Back home that night, I poured a glass of bourbon, stepped onto the back porch, and looked out across the yard. The oak tree was still there. Still standing. Just like me. And in that silence, not the awkward kind, not the wounded kind, but the real kind, I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding since the day she said, "It's just a house." No, sweetheart. You were just a guest. The house? That was home. And now? It was mine again. That I never cared much about Eric. Not at first. He was a symptom, not the disease. The cheap cologne stink on the coat my marriage had already tossed in the trash. But as I dug deeper, as the pieces aligned, I realized something. He knew I wasn't supposed to know. And yet, he was in on the planning. The scheming. The sale of the house. The inheritance that was supposed to fund his new life with my wife. I couldn't let that ride. So, I paid him a visit. He worked at a boutique marketing firm downtown. The type of place where people wear sneakers with their suits and use the word synergy unironically. I walked in, calm as you like, and asked the receptionist if Eric was available. "Do you have an appointment?" "I'm the appointment," I said. 5 minutes later, he strolled out into the glass-walled lobby like he was stepping into a GQ shoot. Tan, tight smile, jawline that probably cost money. "Can I help you?" he asked. I didn't smile. Just wanted to see what kind of man hides behind someone else's wife while making plans with her husband's money. His face twitched. "We don't have to do this here," he said, low and tense. I nodded. "Good. Then how about we don't do it at all?" I slid a single envelope into his hand. "What's this?" he asked. "It's your reality check," I said. "Cease and desist letter. From my attorney. You contact her again, directly or indirectly, and you'll have a lawsuit big enough to bankrupt your trendy little firm. I've also contacted HR at your job. Your boss will be curious why you're named in an adultery-linked divorce. Professional ethics clause, right?" He looked like someone had just unplugged him from the Matrix. "You're insane," he muttered. "No," I replied. "I'm free. You, on the other hand, just lost your side hustle." I turned around and walked out. Didn't need to throw a punch. I already hit him where it hurt. It's strange, the way a home breathes again after the storm has passed. You start noticing things you forgot you loved. The creak of the floorboards. The way the light pours through the blinds in the morning like it's got somewhere to be. I fixed the back gate. Refinished the porch swing. Spent a whole Saturday in the garage rearranging tools my dad once lined up like soldiers. It felt, right? Like honoring something. Like reclaiming something. But it wasn't just about healing. It was about clearing. Every item left behind, I either donated, burned, or boxed up and dropped at her new address. No note. Just a tracking number. She didn't reach out. Good. She knew better. And still, I caught myself checking the hallway mirror every now and then, wondering if the man staring back was someone I'd want to be friends with. He looked tired, but sharp. Older, sure, but wiser. And most importantly, he looked done. The divorce finalized 6 weeks later. No drama. No appeals. No courtroom theatrics. Just a quiet legal stamp, a short Zoom call, and the digital equivalent of a door slamming shut. She kept the car. Took her half of what she hadn't already tried to hide. Got her freedom. But she lost everything else. Friends who saw through her. A family that no longer returned her calls. A reputation that now came with fine print. I didn't celebrate. I just moved on. Until one night, I got a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, just wanted to say I'm sorry for everything. I miss what we had. Hope you're okay." I stared at it for a long minute. Then I blocked the number. No reply. No validation. Just silence. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't fire. It's a locked door and the sound of your own peace. 1 year to the day after the lie came crashing down, I threw a barbecue. Close friends. Laughter. Bourbon that burned the right way. People kept saying how good the place looked. How alive it felt. Like the walls had finally exhaled after holding their breath for too long. I stood by the grill, spatula in one hand, drink in the other, and smiled. I'd been through the storm. I'd buried the dead weight. And I hadn't just survived. I'd rebuilt. Later that night, when everyone had left and the house had gone quiet again, I stood on the porch and looked out at the oak tree, same one my dad planted. Its roots still strong. Still holding. Like me. And I realized something. She thought she was selling a house. What she really sold was her last chance at something real. I didn't lose a home. She lost a legacy. And that's not just revenge. That's justice. The house still stands. And now so do I.